I never imagined a captain would lock me in. Only to discover I was a millionaire doctor. The door slammed shut behind me, echoing like a gunshot in my chest. I can still hear it. My heart raced, panic clawing at my throat. I was trapped, caught in a world I never wanted. The ship rocked gently, a sinister lullaby lulling me into despair. The walls were cold and unforgiving, painted the color of my fear. I pressed my trembling hands against the metal, breath hitching as memories flooded back. My father's warm smile. My mother's laughter echoing through our home. They thought I was safe on this voyage. A chance to escape reality. But this was no escape. It was a nightmare, twisted and surreal. Who was this captain? What did he think he could gain by holding me here? I had earned my fortune as a doctor, saving lives, not feasting on fear. But they didn't know that. They only saw the suit and tie, the facade of wealth and privilege. They didn't see the nights spent in hospitals, the sweat and tears poured into the lives of others. Outside, the crew whispered behind closed doors. I could hear the murmurs, the snickers. Lock him up for good. He won't escape. The betrayal felt like a visceral punch. I pressed my ear to the door, straining to catch the words. Their laughter twisted around my mind. They thought I was just another rich man, easy to take down. They had no idea. As I paced the tiny cell, my mind raced with a plan. I had to get out. This cage couldn't hold me. I could feel the weight of my medical supplies in my bag, hidden beneath layers of clothing. They didn't think I would fight back. Suddenly, the ship rattled violently, throwing me off balance. My breath caught. I stumbled back, my heart pounding louder than the chaos outside. What was happening? The captain had promised stability. I peered through the small window. Waves surged like wild beasts, crashing against the hull. My stomach flipped. If I didn't escape, I might lose everything. My career. My family. My very identity. I pushed against the door, adrenaline coursing through my veins, desperation gnawing at my insides. Suddenly, I heard footsteps heavy and deliberate approaching. What would I do if he found me here, plotting my escape? My hand tightened around my phone, the weight of it feeling both useless and vital. Would I even make it out alive? A knock shattered the tense silence. I froze. Time to face your fate, a deep voice boomed from the other side. My heart stopped. Who was this person? Did they know me? What did they want? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The knocking stopped abruptly, and for a brief moment, silence enveloped me like a shroud. My heart hammered in the stillness, and I could hear the faint roar of the ocean outside, the crests and troughs echoing my turmoil. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The voice had rattled me, it had been authoritative, laced with a sense of finality that made my insides knot even tighter. I leaned against the door, willing my mind to concentrate. I needed to think clearly, to focus on the way out. But how could I, when the looming threat of the captain hung over me like a storm cloud? What if I was about to face him alone, unarmed, vulnerable? My grip tightened around my phone, the one tiny comfort in this prison of metal and despair. Just as I turned to back away from the door, it swung open with a creak that echoed through the confined space. A tall figure stood silhouetted in the dim, flickering light backlit by the corridor. The captain. My heart dropped. "Dr. Reed," he said, voice smooth yet edged with authority. "We need to talk." My throat felt dry as I searched for words, for an angle, but nothing came. Instead, I took a hesitant step backward, instinctively asserting some semblance of personal space. "What do you want from me?" I asked, hoping to project confidence, though my voice quavered like a fragile bird. "I don't understand what you hope to gain by holding me here." He stepped forward, allowing the light to illuminate his face, and I felt a chill run down my spine. His eyes held a glimmer of something inscrutable, anger, perhaps, or was it fear? He leaned closer, the scent of salt and authority flooding my senses as he whispered, "Your fortune means nothing here, Doctor. You know that, right?" I didn't respond, nor could I. I was stuck in a web of confusion. "There's more at play than what you think. You've been brought here because you are needed," he said, seemingly relishing the grim realization that painted my expression. "The ship isn't just a vessel, it harbors secrets that stretch far beyond the horizon. You have skills that can help us. But you must comply." "Help you?" I scoffed, anger flaring within. "You've kidnapped me. How should I trust someone like you?" "Trust is trivial in this game, Doctor," he replied, a mocking smile curling at his lips. "You need to realize the stakes. Your life, my life, even the lives of your loved ones are intertwined in this." Intimidation hung heavily in his tone, but beneath it, I could sense an urgency, a pleading hidden beneath layers of bravado. Before I could respond, the ship lurched again, though this time, something broke through the oppressive noise of machinery and chaos. A voice, a familiar voice, echoed through the hull. "Is anyone there? Help!" My heart stirred. A woman's voice. I recognized it, Claire. My mentor from medical school, someone I had cared for deeply. How could she possibly be here? Her voice cut through the darkness that enshrouded me. "Claire?" I shouted, stepping toward the door, but the captain's hand shot out, blocking my path. "Don't," he growled. "This is about survival, not emotional ties," but I could hear her desperation, her fear clawing through the layers of uncertainty that bound me. The captain was terrified, and for the first time, I saw a crack in his armor, a glimpse of a man who understood the fragility of life. "Let her go," I demanded. "If you want my help, then let her go. Keeping her here won't gain your trust." The captain hesitated, his eyes darting towards the porthole as if weighing the consequences of my words. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the ship again, followed by frantic shouts from the crew. "More than her life depends on this ship remaining stable," he muttered, his gaze turning hollow. "Do you understand the risks?" I took a breath, sensing my chance. "You think holding me and Claire here will protect you? If the ship goes down, you'll lose everything too. We can work together." His gaze narrowed as if weighing my offer. Then, the lights flickered again, and Claire's voice cut through once more, trembling but brave. "Read, please. I don't know what's happening." But then, a deafening boom echoed through the hall, the foundation shaking violently beneath us. The captain's eyes widened, all pretense of control shattered as he turned and ran. "Stay here," he shouted over his shoulder, his voice frantic. "No." I shouted back, heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't just stand by when Claire was in danger. In an instant, I surged forward, past the captain, desperate and instinctual. I sprinted down the corridor, adrenaline fueling my every step as chaos reigned around me. Each pounding footstep felt like a promise to save Claire, each breath filled with newfound purpose. But the ship continued to shudder, and as I rounded the corner, a violent wave battered against the hull, sending me sprawling to the ground. I glanced up just in time to see the captain reappear, his face pale, eyes searching frantically. He was no longer my enemy in that moment, he was a reflection of my own fear. And then, as the ship lurched again, a fiery blaze burst forth from behind him, illuminating his shocked expression. The air thickened with smoke and confusion. The stakes had risen higher than ever before. "Stop!" he yelled, but it didn't matter. We were all in this together now. We either fought to survive or we risked losing everything in one sweeping plunge into the unknown. As the tremors intensified, reality shattered around me like glass, a haunting revelation dawning upon me as I faced the darkness. I was ensnared not just by the captain's machinations, but by the truth that his desperation might bind us all in ways I never imagined. In that moment, the threat of losing Claire became the only thing that mattered, blurring the lines between ally and enemy. This ship was a prison, yes, but it was also a battleground, one where secrets threatened to spill over with every wave crashing against the hull. And I wasn't prepared for what those secrets might unleash. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and fear, an acrid reminder of how quickly everything could spiral into chaos. As I scrambled to my feet, I realized the captain and I were no longer just pieces on a board. We were survivors, tossed together by the unforgiving sea and the fate that loomed over us. That I turned back to the corridor, watching as flames flickered ominously, dancing closer to us like predators creeping in the shadows. The captain's eyes flashed with an anxiety I had never seen before, one that mirrored my own dread. "What do we do now?" I asked, watching him closely, desperate for a plan, a shred of hope. "We need to contain the fire before it spreads." His voice was steady, though his hands trembled slightly. For a flicker of a moment, it felt as if we were allies bound by a common enemy rather than captor and captive. "Contain the fire?" I echoed, incredulous. "Do you honestly expect us to fight a raging inferno with what, exactly?" He glanced down the corridor, then back at me, his expression somber yet resolved. "Every ship carries equipment for emergencies. Fire extinguishers, hoses. There's a chance we can stave this off together." A sliver of hope flickered in my chest once more, igniting a determination I didn't know I had. "Then let's go. Point me in the direction." I was taken aback by the urgency in my own voice, but there was no time for hesitation. We dashed down the corridor, the flames licking at our heels, and as I ran, my thoughts flashed to Claire, her safety, her life, my responsibility. "What about the crew?" I shouted over the roar of the heat. "Some may still be trapped below. We need to secure those we can," he replied, breathless. "Look for the nearest fire station. They'll grab a hose and meet you by the galley." With a nod, I split off towards the fire safety cabinet I had glimpsed on my way down. The orange glow of the flames danced around me, illuminating the terror that gripped my heart. My fingers fumbled with the latch as I pried it open, grabbing the nearest extinguisher and hoisting it to my chest. The weight felt both reassuring and terrifying, a reminder of the burden I now carried, not just for myself, but for everyone aboard. With each step I took, I steeled myself against the uncertainty that clouded my mind. How could we contain the fire while navigating the chaos that the ship had turned into? I pushed the thoughts aside. I would face them later. I turned the corner sharply, and there stood Claire, her figure outlined in hazy orange, arms raised protectively against the smoke swirling around her. Relief crashed over me like the tide, along with panic at the sight of her looking so vulnerable. "Claire, are you all right?" I rushed to her side, the extinguisher clattering against my side. "To think so," she stammered, her face smeared with grime and fear. "But it's spreading. We need to get out of here. No, we need to fight it," I said, raising the extinguisher. "The captain is gathering more supplies. We can contain it." Before she could respond, a loud bang echoed from the depths of the ship, and a grim realization dawned upon us both. "There might be people still down there," Claire gasped, her voice trembling with urgency. "We can't leave them." A heavy silence settled between us as I weighed her words. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from harm, but didn't we owe it to the others to try? "All right," I breathed out, feeling the adrenaline surge within me, intertwining with the fear. "Let's head toward the engine room. We have to warn whoever's down there." As we turned to make our way deeper into the ship, I caught a glimpse of the captain in the distance, now dragging a fire hose towards us, the tension in his posture evident. He was no longer just a figure of authority, he seemed more human, willing to fight alongside us in this battle against chaos. The three of us converged, and I gestured towards the flaming corridor ahead. "We need to head down to the engine room. Claire and I will contain the flames as best we can. You watch our backs." His eyes narrowed slightly, weighing my command against his ego. But the quickness of the flames coupled with the hiss of steam from the pipes made that decision for him. "Let's move," he ordered, unraveling the hose with fierce efficiency. Together, we plunged into the flames, the trio forged by desperation and hope. Yet in that moment, as I wielded the extinguisher with fierce determination, another loud bang from the depths echoed ominously, shaking the very core of the ship. "I don't think it's just the fire we need to worry about," Claire said, her voice small, but pulsing with fear. Just then, chilling water began to seep up from the floor, pouring in from below as if the ship itself were exhaling its final breath. A singular thought crested within me as I felt the pull of the ocean, cold and unrelenting. The ship was taking on water. Without warning, a shadow lunged into view, a figure stumbling from the depths, eyes wide with terror. "Get back! It's not safe!" they yelled, before collapsing onto the floor, a wave of movement that sent us all tumbling back. As they fell, a strange object tumbled free from their hands and rolled startlingly towards us, a small, glinting key hidden in a palm that appeared to shimmer even in the haze of smoke. The revelation hit hard. As the roiling flames cast ominous shadows, I realized the tangled web of fate was tightening around us. This key could unlock not just some passageway or storage, but perhaps a deeper secret, a truth that could blast the very foundation of our precarious alliances wide open. With the ship groaning and the ocean rising, a jolt of realization shot through me. We were teetering on the precipice of life and death, and what remained of our humanity hung on the fragile thread of our choices. But the greatest mystery that clutched at my heart was yet to surface, a question lurking beneath the chaos. What truth did this key hold, and would we unlock something meant to stay buried? As the figure crumpled to the ground, my heart raced, a symphony of fear and hope echoing in my chest. The flames danced voraciously, casting a chaotic light upon the chaos unfolding before us. I knelt to examine the fallen sailor. It was Marcus, the ship's engineer. His face, once a mask of panic, now showed the pallor of an impending crisis, and the urgency behind his wide eyes transported me back to the dire need to act. "Marcus, stay with us," I urged, but my voice wavered, pulled between the urgency of the crumbling ship and the gravity of the scene before me. "What's happening?" "We need to know," he gasped for breath, his chest heaving. I couldn't contain too much water. "The hold is breached. The fire, it's losing power." His eyes flitted between the swirling flames and the glimmering key that lay just beyond my reach. "Contain the fire?" Claire echoed, desperation creeping into her tone. "How can we do that when the ship is sinking?" "Maybe we can access the emergency ballast controls," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the roar of the flames. "But I need to get to the control room." That key, he pointed weakly towards the shimmering object still resting on the floor between us. "It could unlock the storage room. There might be supplies we can use." I reached for the key, tension coiling tightly in my gut. Snatching it up sent a rush of adrenaline through me, for with it came an unfamiliar weight of responsibility. "Let's get you to the control room," I said, glancing up at Claire. Her eyes reflected the flame's glow, but a flicker of resolve shone through. With Claire supporting Marcus, I led the way down the inferno-ravaged corridor, the pressing heat mingling with the salt of impending loss. As we made our way, the ship groaned, a melody of despair reverberating through metal and wood alike. "Why is it that I feel like this fire is only the beginning?" Claire murmured, her voice steadied by courage but laced with the vestiges of fear as she glanced around, searching for an escape. "Because it very well might be," I whispered. "But we have to stay focused. If we can manage to find the ballast controls, we can buy ourselves some time. That gives everyone else a chance to escape." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed in the distance, causing our hearts to lurch. We shared a fleeting glance, a shared understanding that we were wading through a storm that threatened not only our lives but everything we had known. The shadow of the captain loomed ahead, wrangling a fire hose, sweat glistening on his brow, but his expression was resolute. "We're running out of time," he barked, urgency lacing his voice. "Where's Marcus?" "Here," I said, helping him push Marcus forward. "He thinks we can get to the ballast controls." "Then we need to move." the captain replied curtly, rallying us with a wave of his arm. Of all the times I would have preferred a smooth sail. We reached the entry to the control room, the door half melted by the heat. Yet, somehow, it held, a testament to the ship's grit against the raging inferno. Squaring my shoulders, I thrust the key into the lock, teeth gnashing against the metal as I turned it. The door groaned before surrendering, the hinges screeching an ominous welcome. Inside, the dim light revealed chaos, wires sparking and control panels flickering ominously, but it was not just the fire we faced. The water had seeped in, pooling ominously in the corner, a reminder that we were racing against time. I dropped to my knees and frantically searched for the controls, my fingers shaking as I navigated the blaring alarms and frantic lights. There it was, a switch labeled for ballast control, nestled between consoles like a hidden treasure waiting to be claimed. "Here!" I shouted, flipping the switch with a desperate flick of my wrist, praying it would activate the emergency measures. Moments stretched like eternity, the water rising steadily at my feet. My heart hammered against my ribs like a drum, echoing the chaos outside. Suddenly, a hiss echoed through the control room, followed by a rumble. Lights flickered before the ballast system started. Whirring to life, pushing water back out of the ship, a small victory amidst the devastation. "It's working!" I shouted, a surge of hope coursing through me, but just as I let out a breath of relief, Claire's scream shot through the air like a bolt of lightning. "Look out!" I whirled around, dread pooling in my gut as I watched the ceiling crack and groan, shadows bouncing awfully as pieces of the ship fell away. In that moment of chaotic transformation, I grasped the severity of our unraveling reality, recognizing we were one disaster away from losing everything. That second, the captain, seeing the impending danger, lunged forward, reaching for Claire even as he yelled for us to get out. The tension in the air was palpably a life tugging between the extremes of survival and loss. But as we retreated, the newly opened door revealed waves of blazing orange flames, racing toward us with the wrath of an angry monster. Our way was blocked in both directions, and just then, the ground beneath us trembled. Everything we had fought for was one heartbeat away from reverting into chaos. "Get down!" I shouted, instinctively pulling Marcus into a protective stance. The floor shuddered violently beneath us as my heart receded, a low rumble crescendoing into a thundering heartbeat of its own, a revelation that blurred the lines of hope and despair. Trapped between the flames and flooding water, I felt the crushing weight of doubt. But just as it seemed hopeless, a thought pierced through my chaotic mind. This key might unlock not just a door but secrets buried deeper within the ship, perhaps the way out, or perhaps something profoundly transforming. In the throes of uncertainty, I looked at Claire, my heart pounding as another revelation loomed, but the most terrifying part was yet to come. What if the key opened something we were never meant to uncover? At that, images flooded back, the life I had hidden, the secrets of my past that I had thought left behind in a wealthy life devoid of the very adventures in which I now found myself. And yet, the question loomed larger than the flames around us. With the past hidden behind lock and key, was it even worth the risk? The floor shook again, and I felt the ship's groan beneath it as another piece of it collapsed behind us, plunging into the void. In that moment, I could either step fearlessly into the unknown with Claire beside me, or let our courage extinguish in the flames. Time hung like the air, thick with smoke, a single heartbeat pushing us closer to decisions that would alter our fate forever. The crack of splintering wood echoed deep in my bones, and for a heartbeat, I felt like the ship itself was groaning, mirroring the discord that enveloped my heart. The choice loomed large: stay in the burning control room risking everything we had, or venture into the unknown, where the key in my hand might just unlock salvation, or, perhaps worse, unleash buried truths that had haunted me for far too long. I could see the fear mirrored in Claire's eyes, her breath quickening as the looming walls of heat and flame twisted around us like a monstrous serpent. "We need to move," she urged, urgency cracking her voice, yet the very thought of another course paralyzed me. The past clawed at me in that moment, the life I had walked away from. I bit my tongue, forcing back the memories of luxury, a mansion filled with art I had abandoned, sleek cars that were traded in for a life at sea. What I had willingly cast aside was suddenly unyielding, dripping with the essence of betrayal and loss. Each desperate glance at Marcus, at Claire, bewildered me, they were fighting for survival while I stood frozen in the shadows of who I used to be, Ben. Claire's voice broke through my torment. We can't just stand here. With that, Marcus' hand gripped my arm, grounding me in the moment. You have the key, he whispered urgently, but we need to act now. If we don't find another way out, his pain-streaked face pleaded with me to make the decision. As the swell of flames rushed in, the key weight in my palm pulsed with an urge of its own, pulling me toward the depths of uncertainty. I reached for Claire's hand, the warmth of her grasp igniting something dormant within me. Whatever this key unlocks, well, face it together, I said, my voice stronger now, dispelling the shadows of doubt. With renewed resolve, I turned toward the door, my heart pounding in concert with the thrum of heat outside. The overhead lights flickered ominously while the air thickened with smoke and urgency spiraled around me. I faced the archway, breath hitching as I prepared to embrace the unknown, hopes tethered to the fragile thread of the key's power. Squeezing through the narrowing exit, we emerged into the corridor which now resembled a fiery battlefield. Shattered glass crunched beneath our feet, the smoke was thick as shadows warped within a warped horizon, scrambling our senses. Yet amid the uncertainty, the camaraderie of survival illuminated sparks of hope among us. Can you see anything? The captain barked, sputtering through coughs as he tried to navigate through the chaos with us. His devotion to saving others felt like a beacon among the tumult. I took a steadying breath and pushed on, my heart sinking to Claire's determined resolve to stay close. It was as if the flames had merged our destinies in that fleeting rush of adrenaline, deepening bonds woven from before. There. That door. I shouted, pointing toward a faintly outlined entrance at the end of the corridor, the glow from the flames reflecting eerily off its surface. Marcus, can you climb? Claire asked urgently, glancing down at him. Yet instead of answering, he just managed a pained nod, determination glimmering in his eyes. We rushed to the door, the key clamoring for action in my pocket, adrenaline coursing through every vein as the fire raged behind us. The door that loomed ahead was flush with tarnished metal, remnants of its former glory trapped behind decades of neglect. I slid the key back into my fingers and took a calming breath, holding on to the single thread of hope that remained. Turning the key felt like unlocking a buried treasure, but the weight of my choices twisted my stomach. What awaited us was cloaked in shadows. Would it be refuge or ruin? I turned the handle, the lock clicking open with an oddly satisfying sound that felt both triumphant and terrifying. The door swung open, and I staggered into the darkened room, the space enveloping us in an eerie calm compared to the raging storm of flames and fear we had just escaped. The air thick with age and silence sent shivers down my spine as we stepped inside. Danger still lurking behind. Inside the room sat rows of crates, dust-draped and anonymous, whispers of untold stories held within. A glimmer caught my eye from the far corner, a glistening edge breaking free from the shadows. As I approached, a sense of eeriness raced down my spine. It was an ornate box, perhaps a relic of the ship's past. I reached out, hesitating as if the ghosts of what once was might leap from the box's depths. What if this holds more secrets? I asked aloud, uncertain yet compelled by the longing for answers beneath the surface. Claire stepped closer, her breath held in anticipation. Maybe it's meant to answer our questions, she replied softly, glancing at me with curiosity swirling in her gaze. As I finally lifted the lid, the faintest shimmer of gold spoke of wealth and power within. But unearthing memories of entitlement and suppression filled my throat as the contents came into view. Medical supplies, tools of a trade I once knew intimately. My heart sank. These were reminders of my life before the sea, of healing lives while I struggled to find my own, and then it struck: what if I could use them now, not just for survival but for something bigger? My hands trembled as I lifted a stethoscope filled with memories. Would it still hold the power to save lives even now? But against this flicker of hope came a weightier realization: the potential for exposure of my past caught me off guard. The captain had been searching intermittently, and Marcus had not let me forget how powerful the sails of truth could be when coupled with flames. The door rattled violently, a fist pounding against it from the outside, jolting me back to reality. Panic surged as I saw Claire's wide-eyed fear reflected back. "We need to go," she urged, pulling on my arm frantically. "The ship is collapsing," I took a final glance at the box of my past, the weight of choices encompassing me as the air filled with foreboding. No, I can't just leave it. A surge of desperation gripped me. It was more than just memory, it was an island of hope amid the chaos. Ben! The captain's voice bellowed from outside, fear laced in his urgency as the door shuttered perilously again. We need to go now. Staring at Claire's frightened countenance, I felt the tremors of choices crashing against the current of my soul. The flames danced beyond the door, ominous and unyielding, while my heart drummed out a tune of panic and longing. Ben, make a choice. Claire demanded, the weight of every unsaid word gathering around us as if the very air held secrets unspoken. Would I choose the life I'd cast away so solemnly, or step into an uncertain future alongside a crew who had laid claim to my heart in their most trying hour? In the fire's ceaseless roar, I felt both an anchor and a storm vibrating through my veins. With the door trembling against my back, I understood whatever I uncovered within me had the potential to reshape fate, revealing wonders and dangers intertwined. As the decision wrapped around me, a chilling realization washed over what unburied might tear open far deeper wounds ahead. Yet as I felt Claire's steadying hand on my shoulder, I knew it was a chance I had to take. With a final glance back at the box and my heart intertwined with 2 lives, I turned toward Claire, resolve hardening in my chest. Together, I said firmly, locking eyes with her. But just as I moved, another explosion ripped through the ship, plunging us into a darkness deeper than the shadows. In that very moment, the world around us faded, tears of uncertainty threading through the firestorm both outside and within. As the ceiling buckled, a piece of the ship fell, slamming down right where Marcus had been just moments before, and within the chaos, a burning question persisted: would we uncover new truths, or would the flames consume us all in the end? The world swirled around me in a cacophony of fear and fury. The distant roar of flames merged with a heart-stopping silence, punctuated only by Claire's gasps and the ominous creaking of the ship. Rushing forward into the chaos, it felt as if every choice I had ever made had led us to this very moment of final reckoning. Ben. We need to move. Claire's voice broke through the haze, her urgency cutting through the rising tide of panic. I caught her arm, my pulse quickening as the reality of Marcus' perilous situation washed over me, intertwining with the pang of regret growing in my chest. But just as I turned to respond, I felt the weight of uncertainty press down. The explosion had caused the ship to shudder violently, causing a shower of debris to rain down on us. The echoes of wood splintering washed over me as I glanced back at the remains of the ornate box, astonished by its sudden significance and the frailty of the life we clung to. Now. Claire shouted again, and this time I heard the fear hidden beneath her bravado, the urgency that thundered in her breath. I looked to where Marcus had been, a tense knot of dread tightening in my gut. Was he trapped beneath the wreckage, or had he sprinted away from us in search of safety? We can't just leave him. I cried out, scanning the chaos for any sign of Marcus. The smoke wrapped around me, thick and stifling, and I fought the rising wave of despair threatening to drown us. Ben. Claire's sharp tone cut through the panic as she pulled at my arm, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and desperation. We can't help him if we're trapped too. We need to go. Against the roar of the ship's imminent collapse, I understood her logic. I could feel time slipping away, each second marking an agonizing choice that kept pulling my gaze back toward the remnants of my past. Each moment stretched thin, unraveling threads that bound both memory and destiny. Reluctantly, I tore my gaze away from the wreckage, steeling myself against the pain of missed connections and potential losses. Together, we pushed deeper into the dim hallway, moving away from the chaos behind us. The flames roared with an insatiable thirst, threatening to consume everything that remained. Yet beneath the swirling turmoil, a flicker of hope took root. The medical supplies from the box echoed possibilities. The notion that I could wield those tools again, that I could do something, be someone again, ignited a spark of determination. Perhaps if we survived this night, I could use them to save lives, to redeem the part of myself that had been cast aside. Claire turned to look at me, a fearsome resolve stealing her own expression. We're going to find him, Ben. We will not leave Marcus behind, she promised fiercely, and I nodded, bolstered by her strength. Before I could respond, the ground beneath us trembled violently, sending us stumbling as we pressed forward. The air chilled around us, mingling with the heat of the tragedy just behind. Thuds still echoed from behind the closed door, the desperate sounds of those beyond it reaching us, reminding us of the crucial choices hanging in the balance. Suddenly, the lights flickered above, illuminating a narrow passage. A small, flickering exit sign illuminated a path further ahead, whispering life among the impending shadows. As we approached, however, my heart lurched again. This door felt strangely familiar, but I could not place why.is this it? Claire asked, her breath catching as she peered through the glass. Instinctively, my hand brushed against the pocket where the key lay heavy against my chest, a tangible reminder of the truths waiting to be unlocked. With every heartbeat, my finger trembled against the metallic surface. I think it is, I breathed. Yet the weight of hesitation tugged me back, the reminder of consequences loomed large around me. What if this door led to salvation yet also opened the floodgates to my past? Ben, we don't have time. Claire urged as another tremor rattled through the ship. I pushed all my fears to the side, forcing myself to focus on our shared survival. Okay, I nodded finally, drawing out the key while fixing my gaze on Claire's fierce determination. Together. Inserting the key into the lock was oddly cathartic, like turning the page in a book filled with secrets half remembered. The lock clicked, echoing like a heartbeat in the silence just before a storm. With a turn of the handle, the door swung wide, revealing a stairwell spiraling down into darkness. Before we could step through, a flicker of movement caught my eye above, a shadow darting past the glass of the door we had just opened. I jerked back, heart racing as an icy dread seeped through me. Did you see that? I asked breathlessly. Claire's gaze followed mine, her brow knitting in concentration. What was it? But before we could unveil the mystery, a loud crash reverberated from deeper within the ship. The sound shook us to our core, sending chills racing down my spine and signaling a danger far greater than the flames. Go! Claire urged, already moving, and I followed, caught in the web of urgency towards the unseen descent below. We raced down the spiral staircase, every step echoing questions that twisted in my gut. The darkness swallowed us whole, the flames now a distant whisper compared to the pounding impact of my heart against the unknown. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I knew whatever truths awaited, they would be dark and twisted. We reached the bottom and emerged into a dimly lit hold, debris strewn like fallen stars against the ground. It felt like stepping into a different world, where fate and destiny collided, and the weight of what I might uncover pressed down hard. As we halted to catch our breath, more sounds reached us. A low, anguished cry echoed through the murkiness, intertwining fear with familiar desperation. My heart sank as dread coiled tighter around me. It's Marcus. Claire's voice was barely above a whisper, her fear palpable as she took a hesitant step forward. No. I managed to choke out, and without thinking, I pushed forward toward the sound, driven by a force far greater than the fear coiling my insides. The moment I saw Marcus, curled beneath a mound of debris, something shattered within me. Shock coursed through my veins as realization of our circumstances darkened every corner of my consciousness. Rushing to him, I tore back the wreckage that had pinned him, and there it was again, the question of who I was beneath the darkness, the soul beneath the wreckage. Could I pull him from this darkness, this inevitable fate interwoven by our tumultuous choices? But as I began to pull him free, the air around us filled with a new intensity, increasing the danger tenfold. With every strained breath, I felt the weight of my decision press down, a choice that could shape everything to come. Claire. I called out, panic edging into my voice. Help me. But just as I looked up, the ceiling cracked ominously, splintering above us. In that final moment of awakening clarity, I knew the flames from my past had not only threatened to swallow us whole but were also here to expose the very truths I had buried deep. We're running out of time. I shouted, the world collapsing around us, hoping against hope that we could break free from this moment, unearthing the power of choice. But before we could break free, a flicker of light sparked through the darkness, a pale shape against the shadows. And there a figure, isolated in the flickering illumination. A revelation lay waiting to expose all our truths, the future and the past intertwined in a dance of destruction. Would we unravel the connection holding us together, or would the flames finally devour everything we had fought so desperately to save? The lingering question echoed against the walls of my turmoil, the uncertainty surrounding us thickening into something suffocating. Time was running out, the ship was falling apart, and with each passing moment, our destinies loomed larger than any truth I had ever known. The darkness deepened around us as the ship trembled in protest, the distant roar of flames a constant reminder of our precarious situation. I braced myself against the weight of debris, my hands trembling as I fought to free Marcus, every ounce of strength pouring into the desperate act of saving my friend. Ben, we have to hurry. Claire urged, her voice edged with a desperation that echoed my own fears. There was no telling how much longer the ship could endure. I could feel the heat rise around us, creeping closer, each second stretching taut like a bowstring ready to snap. I am trying. I grunted, maneuvering a heavy beam with all my might, my heart pounding both from exertion and an encroaching sense of dread. The shadows danced in the flickering light, playing tricks on my mind, every corner of the hold cloaked in uncertainty. Just as Marcus began to stir beneath the wreckage, groaning softly, a jagged rumble reverberated through the ship. A part of the ceiling collapsed nearby, sending a shower of dust and splinters cascading around us. I barely had time to shield Marcus when Claire shouted, "Ben! Look out!" I turned just in time to see another piece of debris teetering above, threatening to fall. Time slowed for an agonizing heartbeat. My instincts screamed to save Marcus, to pull him free, but the danger was too immense. "Get down!" I shouted as I shoved Marcus back, the beam crashing down inches away, sending shockwaves through the space like a thunderclap. I couldn't breathe. Fear wrapped its icy fingers around my throat as I fought to stay calm. For all of us. Is he okay? Claire's voice broke the tense silence, but I couldn't respond. Clenching my jaw, I turned my attention back to Marcus, kneeling beside him now as he blinked against the dust. Relief coursed through me when I saw his eyes, still bright with a flicker of life. "Marcus, can you move?" I asked urgently, monitoring his every reaction like a hawk. "Why, yeah." His voice was weak, but it was enough. I think I can get up." With Claire's help, we gently maneuvered the debris away from him until he could sit up, gasping as he took in the devastation around him. "What happened?" he croaked, his eyes darting to the flickering shadows. Before I could answer, a surge of heat licked closer, and I could feel the fire's insistent pull beckoning us to rush. "There's no time. We need to go, now," I said, throwing an arm around Marcus's shoulder. Freedom seemed just a heartbeat away, yet the haunted expression on Marcus' face sent a chill through me. "I can't," he murmured weakly, tears brimming in his eyes. "Don't say that," Claire pleaded, tightening her grip on his other side. "You need to fight. We don't leave friends behind." As we struggled to stand, I couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus's emotional wounds ran deeper than the physical ones we were trying to navigate through. The weight of unspoken truths lingered in his eyes, begging to be addressed, but there was no time now. We stumbled toward the sliver of light that beckoned us from beyond an adjacent door, the exit to salvation, but the path was littered with obstacles. Each step felt like a dance with fate, the shadows around us swelling as uncertainty hung thick in the air, coiling around my heart like a vice. "Keep moving," I urged, feeling the heat behind us push us forward with a fierce urgency. Just as we made it to the door, it swung open to reveal a narrow corridor lit by flickering emergency lights, casting an ethereal glow that felt both inviting and treacherous. But waiting on the other side was more than just a passage. It was a decision point. I took a deep breath and steeled myself, lighting a small ember of hope within me. "Stay close," I instructed, my voice steadying. As we moved deeper into the corridor, I forced thoughts of the past back, knowing that confrontation would have to wait until we were safer, until I could no longer suppress the truth that clawed at the edges of my mind. Then, from behind us, the ship let out a terrifying groan, a sound of anguish that sent a tremor of panic coursing through me. "Run!" I yelled. Instinctively. We sprang ahead, the sound of our breath mingling with the one that came from behind, a cacophony of impending collapse that cried out louder than any of our fears. But then out of the corner of my eye a flicker of movement. Another shadow slipped past, just as the vessel shook again, the walls threatening to close in on us like the jaws of a beast. "Did you see that?" I panted, and Claire, eyes wide, shook her head emphatically. "Focus. We can't let anything distract us." Yet the specter of that movement wouldn't leave me. A gut instinct told me we weren't alone. Adrenaline coursed through me as I gripped Marcus tighter. Just as we rounded a corner, the lights overhead sputtered and went dark. Panic surged as the hold descended into an inky abyss, our only guide the faint sounds of desperation soaking into the rapidly encroaching silence. "Ben!" Claire cried, and I felt her hands scramble for mine, anchoring us against the darkness. Then, from that same cluster of shadows, a voice called out, chilling me to the bone. "Help! Please, someone, anyone!" The voice was unmistakable. It was Marcus' sister, Olivia. I froze for a moment, a wave of conflicting emotions crashing over me. A rush of guilt filled my chest for not having sought her out sooner on this strange and dangerous voyage. "Olivia!" Marcus exclaimed, breaking into a run toward the sound. Claire and I exchanged a look, and without hesitation, we darted after him. As we turned the corner, the flickering emergency lights sputtered back to life, illuminating a large metal door propped open just wide enough for someone to slip through. "Olivia!" Marcus cried again, the desperation thickening his voice. But what we saw next pulled the breath from our lungs. There, just inside the doorway, a figure lay crumpled against the wall, flickering between the looming shadows and the erratic lights. Marcus. Olivia's voice broke weakly, and the world around me narrowed in a terrifying spiral. The truth of our connections and the shackles of our past threatened to break free, each thought igniting a cacophony of fear that we had yet to come to terms with. "Stay with us," Marcus pleaded urgently, but the flickering light showed something far more sinister closing in behind. The walls creaked ominously again, and I turned, my heart dropping as we realized the full threat of our situation. Before we could react, the shadows erupted into chaos, and the ceiling above us began to crack. There was no escape without confrontation. As darkness closed in like an avalanche, I knew our fight was only beginning, and the truth that had simmered beneath the surface would soon clash with all we had ever known. Would we unite against the impending darkness, or would the flames of our past consume us completely? As the fragments of our desperately intertwined fates collided, I understood that survival was only the beginning of a reckoning we had yet to face. The air felt thicker as the shadows deepened around us, twisted as though the very fabric of reality was unraveling. I stood frozen for a heartbeat, grasping the enormity of what lay before us. Olivia's tangled mess of fear and hope clung to life, yet the chaos around us threatened to swallow her whole. With every beat of my heart, dread surged through the corridors of my mind. "No!" Marcus shouted, lunging forward, urgency igniting his every step as he reached for his sister. Claire's grip on my arm tightened, a silent plea for clarity amidst the chaos. "Marcus, wait!" I urged, my voice breaking the crackle of flickering lights. I knew we couldn't afford to act recklessly. With the ship groaning like a wounded beast, we had to strategize, even as the shadows clawed at our sanity. Olivia's eyes met Marcus, and for a fleeting moment, sorrow mingled with determination in that shared gaze. "I thought I'd lost you," she murmured, her voice trembling, echoing the weight of all the unspoken regrets that had accumulated over the years. "Never. I'm here. I'll always be here," Marcus replied, but I could see the tremor in his hands that betrayed his facade of bravery. As he knelt beside her, I felt the urgency of our situation coiling tightly around my chest. The ship was alive with treachery, each heartbeat echoing the ratchet of collapsing, overwhelmed corners. We didn't have the luxury of time. "Marcus!" I shouted again, pulling him back, closer to me. "We need to get her out. Now!" The darkness shifted in the corner of my eye, but I couldn't let it distract me. Yet, as if summoned by my thoughts, a chilling gust swept past, the air crackling with unease. A flash of light illuminated the passage behind us, momentarily revealing the figure that had haunted my gut. Something or someone was watching. It flickered back into the abyss, rendering my search for a source futile. Had someone survived? Help! Olivia croaked, the color draining from her face, and my instincts screamed. The ship shuddered, and a low rumble of thunder reverberated through the metal bones of our prison. We don't have time, Claire urged, urgency thrumming in her voice. We have to make a choice, Ben. We can risk trying to carry her, or we can leave now. Leave her? How the words tasted like ash in my mouth. We can't abandon her. My voice rose, desperate. I'm not leaving, Marcus shouted, panic spilling over. In that moment, the safety of brotherly love hung dangerously in the balance between survival and sacrifice, as much as it made my heart ache. Before I could reason with him, shadows flickered closer, the phantom of panic marring the desperate scene before us, a primal ticking clock that was rapidly winding down. With gritted teeth, I knelt beside Olivia. Can you stand? Can you walk? She shook her head weakly, anguish pooling in those familiar eyes. I can't, it hurts too much. My heart plummeted, but Claire's calm voice cut through my spiraling despair. Ben, if she can't walk, we have to create a distraction. We can draw whatever this is away. There might be another way out. I looked between her and Marcus, seeing the trajectory of hope hanging by a thread. You're right. Prepare to move, then, Claire said, steely resolve in her eyes. On my signal, it'll draw its attention. What if it doesn't work? I whispered to her, my voice barely audible above the rising tempest of uncertainty. Then I won't have to worry about a future without you, she replied, a flicker of that ever-present kindness shining through the chaos. Don't say that, I breathed, swallowing the fear that throbbed in my throat. Despite the darkness surrounding us, a sliver of warmth pulsed, an unbreakable bond forged in that moment of shared vulnerability. As Claire positioned her body toward the looming shadows, something shifted in the air, an unseen force swirling like an ominous storm. The ship creaked, encasing us in its tremors. Now! She shouted, taking a few bold steps forward, drawing the shape of our impending doom closer. Marcus, I'm lifting her, I said as I slid an arm beneath Olivia's shoulders. You do everything you can to keep her up. Together we hoisted her, my heart pounding with the weight of our collective desperation. Back to back. Claire yelled as a piercing howl cut through the air, like a wounded animal ready to attack. The ship shuddered as we turned, shadows merging into a solid wall of night. The light snapped off again, plunging us into darkness, but I no longer had the luxury of fear. With Olivia cradled against me, I gripped Marcus' hand tightly, a lifeline tethering us in the abyss. Trust each other. Claire's voice rang out above the din, demanding strength. And then from the depths a menacing form surged forward, dissimilar from any threat we had faced. I felt it wash over us, a spectral breath of past regrets and anguish, wings of shadow trailing like a recent memory that I held tight to Marcus, pushing him to move with me, forming a protective wall around Olivia. Then, in that swirling chaos of uncertainty, I heard a faint whisper against the tide of darkness, a cry filled with familiarity, an echo of my own hidden past. Then my heart sank, racing to a haunting realization, and as I turned toward the voice sewn into the fabric of every painful decision I had ever made, the shadows ensnared us. In that moment, the truth of who I was and who I had become loomed larger than life, intertwined with the survival of more than myself. What we faced next would shatter everything we held dear, or bind us in unbreakable kinship. But as the darkness closed in around us, it seemed that I was not just unearthing ghosts. What I would discover could irrevocably change the course of our story forever. The haunting whisper sent a chill down my spine, momentarily breaking my resolve. It can't be, I murmured, grappling with the clashing tide of emotions that swelled within me. My thoughts whirled like a tempest, urging me to look back into the shadows, to confront whatever figure lured me in with its inexplicable familiarity. Ben. Focus! Claire shouted, tearing me from my reverie. The urgency in her voice forced me back to reality, where danger lurked as close as our own tangled history. But the shadows were relentless, creeping closer, feeding on the fears that writhed within my heart. What do I do? I thought furiously, searching for answers in eyes that mirrored my own desperation. In the midst of chaos, I realized the stakes had risen palpably, dragging every unresolved piece of my life into the light. Keep moving. Marcus barked, pulling me back to the now, his voice slicing through my spiraling thoughts. He was carrying Olivia, wrestling mightily against her stillness, his demeanor both protective and desperate. Right as I was about to step forward, another voice low and sinister rose from the depths of the shadows. You didn't think you could run, did you, Ben? The name hung in the air, weighed down by memories I would rather forget. I forced my feet to move, and instinct kicked in as I picked up a pace, weaving through the growing tendrils of darkness that seemed intent on holding us hostage. The ship quaked ominously, and with it, our situation spiraled toward the unknown. Unbeknownst to me, the specter of my past had emerged, rippling through the air like a ghost of a life I once knew, igniting a frenzy of regret. You're not real. I yelled, my voice cracking under the weight of fears too deep to surface. Not real? Am I not the embodiment of your failures? The voice twisted around me, teasing the edges of my memory. My mind raced, fragments skimming the surface of long-buried events, the choices I'd made, the lives that had shaped me. Find counterarguments, find distractions. Claire's voice cascaded like a lifebuoy in a raging storm. We're not dummies. Keep it together. Her words spurred me into action. Marcus. It'll draw its attention away while you get Olivia up. I hurled the words out before I could reconsider. The investment in our only safety was an agonizing gamble, yet the look in Marcus' eyes captivated my heart, a silent vow that we would not lose one another, that we were still entangled in this mess, clinging to one another as if the bonds of trust could shield us from the truth. I'll protect you both. Marcus' determination echoed through the tempest, yet as I looked over my shoulder one last time, that voice infiltrated my thoughts again. Do you even know who you truly are? No. I shouted back, my eyes darting between the shadows and my companions. What does that even mean? But even behind my bravado, doubt pooled like a poison in my veins, suffocating the hope we still clung to. I turned, ready to execute my plan. 5 steps, that's all I need, I muttered to myself, the plan taking shape beneath the urgency of time. Shadows darted around me, weaving an intricate web of self-destruction. 1. 2. Just then, Claire's scream sliced through the air, a cry laced with terror. I pivoted toward her, my heart clenching as I saw a monstrous silhouette loom over her. Claire. I lunged forward as adrenaline surged, but my thoughts flickered back to the figure that now haunted the ship. It spoke again, drawing attention cunningly. Why do you run from the truth, Ben? You are more than a survivor, stay back. I shouted, my body a barrier as I flung myself in front of Claire. I could feel the heat radiating from that dark presence, suffocating in its claws of despair. The darkness enveloped us as I felt Marcus' grip on Olivia's arms waver for a split second. I don't have to listen to you. I bellowed, grappling for certainty in this twisting nightmare, and as if to defy the shadows, I pulled Claire close, willing each pulse of my heart to brand this moment into memory. We need to keep moving. Marcus shouted, sounding further away now, trailing behind. The weight of our tangled past. In that moment fear and fury battling within me turned toward the darkness. If you think you can intimidate me into submission, then you don't know who I am. A derisive laugh erupted from the shadows, morphing into something sharp and chilling. You still don't see, do you? You can run from the fiends that claw at you, but they will always be a part of you. And why should I, a mere shadow, fear the light? The words cut deep, striking at something buried in my conscience, threatening to unravel the foundation of my courage. But before I could dwell on it, the storm raged, thrusting me back into my fight for survival. I glanced at Olivia, whose spirit flickered dimly, and in that split second, the very heart of despair echoed within me. Other secrets lay trapped among the layers of my past. Ben! Claire cried again, snapping me out of my daze, and then it came like a bolt of lightning through the thick haze of uncertainty. Olivia, I gasped, and the truth ignited like a wildfire in my chest. She needed more than our strength, she needed a piece of my history too. The impending storm hung heavily as I grasped the possibility that had eluded me for so long. Just then an earth-shattering noise exploded behind us, and the walls began to constrict, squeezing the breath from my lungs. In that deadly embrace, I felt the urge to scream, but I channeled it instead, a captivation of all my remaining resolve. Claire, Marcus. On the count of 3. We go together. As another shadow reached for us, cloaked in doubt and memories I couldn't escape, I knew we were all teetering on the precipice of what could become an irrevocable revelation. 12. The walls creaked, but bursting through the shadows was somehow a sliver of resolution, an inkling that change was forged only amidst chaos. 3. What lay beyond was a treacherous leap of faith into the unknown. Yet, nestled within was the undeniable truth: sometimes valleys of despair birthed unforeseen paths we never dared to walk before. And as we surged forward, hoping against all despair, I braced myself for the possibility that what awaited us at the end could change everything forever. The echoes of our footfalls morphed into a chaotic rhythm, pulsing like heartbeats against the torrent of flames behind us. Each step stirred a tempest of dust, smoke, and memory, weaving together the fabric of our intertwined fates. The passage became narrow, each inch feeling like a race against infinity, shadows prancing at the periphery of our vision, threatening to drown us in the haunting specter of our own fears. Claire clung to my side, her warm, steady presence igniting a flicker of bravery in me. I felt Marcus beside me, his determination illuminating the ambiguity of our surroundings. As we pressed forward, the weight of an immeasurable burden bore down on us, not only the physical threat of the ship's impending demise, but also the tumult of our pasts clawing at the edges of our minds. Keep moving, I urged, my voice a cutting whisper between gasps for air. Frazzled nerves danced beneath my skin as I chanced to glance back, knowing we left behind fragments of ourselves within the flickering flames, things long unresolved, splintered connections that haunted the echo of our footsteps. Just ahead, light shimmered through the haze, as close as fragile hope could tether us to salvation. I could feel it, a tangible pulse threading through the mist-tan opening, perhaps an exit, beckoning us with promises of life beyond the darkness. Almost there, I called, hope surging in my chest like wildfire, drowning out the persistent whispers of despair surrounding us. But as we neared, a figure suddenly emerged from the shadows. I froze, intricacies of fear wrapping cold fingers around my spine. No. Not now. I felt Claire's grip tighten as uncertainty flashed in her eyes. It was more than fear, it was an overlapping memory, a past resurrecting itself to the forefront. Among the wraiths lurking in the darkness stood a face both familiar and unrecognizably a past incarnation of myself. Welcome back, the apparition spoke, voice a chilling echo that sent shivers racing down my spine. I stared back into the depths of my own remorse, grappling with emotions that clawed at the edges of sanity. But between shadow and light, shadows can't deceive in a space built on desire and regret. This ends here, I roared, my voice reverberating through the cold shadows. Does it? The figure taunted softly, almost human, as it reached toward me. You can drive away the shadows, but they will only return with vengeance. You're fighting a losing battle. Enough. Claire spat, stepping forward, her confidence shining a light between us. I was drawn to her, that beacon beckoning me home, grounding me amidst the chaos. My thoughts reverberated, and I realized this was no delusion, no figment of guilt. This was an amalgamation of decisions stitched within my soul, but it didn't define who I was today. That is the truth. Marcus called, stepping closer to us and holding Olivia in an earnest embrace, protecting her from the encroaching darkness. But we are not helpless. We endured the fire and made our choices. We will not let you take their hearts. With the tremors of the ship shaking the very foundation beneath us, the specter's laughter melted into a cunning grin. You think that binds you? Your hearts are shackled by silence, by secrets left unspoken. This storm was born from your indecision. The shadows flickered, twisting toward us like claws poised to seize our very souls. It was in that moment the swirling tides of fate fell upon me, and I had a choice to make. My past could be my anchor or my sail. Claire. Marcus. Help me. A new resolve kindled within me, newfound courage bursting forth like flames licking at the horizon. Together, let's banish this shadow. We face our truth. I cried out. No more running. Together, we rewrite what we are. With a collective breath, the energy among us shifted, heated by determination interwoven with acceptance. Each of us bore scars, visible and hidden, yet there was strength in our vulnerability, the memories that stitched us together in this tempest. I felt Claire's hand in mine and Marcus' whispers of hope echoing around us. Now, I declared. We stepped forward as one. For every hesitance we carried, we dispersed it with unyielding spirit, forcing the hold of shadow to collide with the light within us. I called out the names of all I had failed me: family, my patience, the lives lost in the flicker of flame. I released my words into the space around me, unleashing emotions I had long held captive, embracing every piece of who I had denied. Burnt bridges forged anew in time over embers of regret, the layers of darkness melted away, my own clarity navigating the oscillating shadows surrounding us. I felt Claire's fierce resolve beside me, shifting from an anchor to a driving force. All the silhouettes of my past lay before me, their power melting under our collective light. I let go of the doubt, allowing each name to lift the bitterness I had been holding onto. Together, we echoed in unison, our voices weaving through the chaos, a tapestry of strength binding us. In a resounding pulse, shadows unraveled, retreating from the light as the very air between us shifted, softening like a gentle touch. We became the storm, the tempest of our wishes, reclaiming agency over the shadows that once sought to drown us. And as the darkness pulled back, the ship trembled with a fragile silence, the looming waves crashing against the hull whispered a promise of survival. We surged toward the light, flooding the passageway, each step invigorated by life anew, freed from the entanglements of our histories. The final door loomed ahead, crackling light illuminating hope before us. It's not too late, I thought as dawn tickled the horizon beyond. We can start over. We can write a new narrative, one driven not by the weight of our past, but by the strength of who we become. We reached the door, bursting through it as light cascaded around us, the embrace of salvation tenaciously holding us as we erupted onto the deck. As the dawn broke, illuminating waves of cream and gold across the endless horizon, I caught my breath, desperately grasping at the moment, letting the sun soothe the remnants of shadows within. Our battle had woven us together, two worlds colliding into one shared purpose. Together, I repeated softly, my heart swelling as I witnessed Claire and Marcus, bound together by our own pivotal moments, woven through each whispered truth. Right here, amid rising sun and thrumming waves, feelings stirred, unbreakable yet fragile, freeing us as we stood side by side. Each breath felt like a sacred promise, each heartbeat a rhythm strummed by renewal. And as I turned back to my friends, a sense of peace settled within me. Nothing would ever truly vanish, but everything would disperse like smoke, filled with meaning, interwoven and undying. We are not defined by our trials, but by how we rise to meet the dawn. As we anchored our hearts together, I felt the last remnants of fear slip away, my very essence surrounding me, every heartbeat echoing through the sunrise. The echoes of our choices woven with hope lifted us toward the horizon, and as the sea rolled beneath us, the future stretched out unwritten and ripe with possibility. Together, we opened a new chapter, and in that promise, I breathed deeply, knowing at last that every end was only the beginning of all that could be.